Hi, everybody. We're going to go ahead and get started. We're running just a few minutes late. So please have a seat. If you have a conversation, please go ahead and have it outside. It got really quiet. And you're also welcome to have a seat, too. David, is the closed captioning working this evening on the...
I believe it is.
Okay, good. I know it's not been working, so it should be. Thank you. So I am going to go ahead and officially call this meeting to order. This is a regularly scheduled meeting of the West Hollywood Planning Commission. It's Thursday, November 1st, 2018. We have some special guests in the audience tonight. My parents are here from Indiana. So, so I am going to ask them to come up to the podium. This is their first time, so let's try to be kind to them as we extend to all of our guests in the city of West Hollywood and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. You don't need to state your name or city of residence, but make sure you talk into the mic. Mom and Dad. The mic.
Is it on?
Yeah, it's on.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, William and Deborah Jones. So moving on to our third item of business, we have a new commissioner that we are welcoming to our ranks tonight. This is item 3A, so David will be administering the oath of office to John Erickson.
All right.
Okay, raise your right hand, please, and repeat after me. I, John Erickson,
I, John Erickson,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that while serving in the office
that while serving in the office
as a member of the Planning Commission
as a member of the Planning Commission
of the City of West Hollywood,
of the City of West Hollywood,
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully discharge
and that I will well and faithfully discharge
the duties upon which I am about to enter.
the duties of which I'm about to enter.
Congratulations, Commissioner.
Thank you,
And
Frank.
then here is your certificate.
Oh, thank you. Here's your pen.
Thank you.
Welcome, Commissioner John Erickson. David, can you go ahead and lead us in roll call, please?
Good evening. Commissioner Hoopengarner,
Present.
Commissioner Erickson,
Present.
Commissioner Buckner,
Present.
Commissioner Bass.
Here.
Commissioner Elchel,
Here.
Vice Chair Jones.
No.
I'm sorry. Vice Chair Carvalero.
Here.
I'm sorry. And Chair Jones.
Thank you. Yes, here.
Thank you. And we have a quorum.
Great, thank you. I didn't realize I was about to receive a demotion this evening. Okay, so item 5 is approval of the agenda. I know that there are many people here to speak on item 11B, 8555 Santa Monica Boulevard. We have received a request from the applicant for a continuance of this item to a date uncertain because of changes that the applicant would like to make to the project in response to feedback from the city and other interested parties, residents of the city. There is a copy, or I believe there are some copies of this letter available in the back if you want to take a look. But I would like to move that we continue this item to a date uncertain, but we would need to have some discussion about this as a commission.
Second.
We can call the question, or we can have discussion about it. It sounds like we don't have discussion about it. All right, we're going to call the question.
And the motion carries unanimously, amending the agenda, noting that item 11B, 8555 Santa Monica Boulevard will be continued and legally noticed to a date uncertain.
And again, as per David, that meeting will be fully renoticed. So you will receive all the same notices that you did before.
Is anybody here who would like to give their name to David, but we should get notice?
I'm going to wait just a moment for everyone to leave the auditorium. All right, I think we can keep going. Item 6 is approval of the minutes. We have minutes to approve from October 4th. David, is that correct?
That is correct. We're requesting the minutes for October 4th be approved.
Madam
There is
Chair.
one correction we do have on page 4, third paragraph. We're going to strike the word "and applicants," and that is in regards to Commissioner Bass's statement.
Great, thank you. And we are continuing the approval of the minutes for the meeting from October 18th to our next meeting, correct?
The November 15th meeting, correct, yes.
Great, thank you.
Excuse me.
Oh, go ahead,
I
Commissioner Buckner.
believe that I was absent on the 4th, so I'll be abstaining from that.
Okay, thank you. I will move to approve those minutes as amended.
Moved by Chair Jones, seconded by Commissioner Bass. And the motion carries, noting Commissioner Buckner and Commissioner Erickson abstaining.
Great, thank you. I'm going to move on to item 7, public comment. You will have 3 minutes. Do we have any public comments, David?
3 public comments. Our first public speaker is Rob Bergstein.
Great. Rob Bergstein, followed by George Biarski. You will have 3 minutes. Please state your name and city of residence.
Good evening, Honorable Chair and Commissioners. My name is Rob Bergstein. I'm a resident of the city of West Hollywood. First, Planning Commissioner John Erickson. I want to welcome you to this commission and to tell you how excited I am to have you serving here and how fortunate the city is to have your passion, commitment, and skill. Then I want to check in. I am your liaison from the Rent Stabilization Commission. While historically the commission mainly hears appeals on hearing examiners' decisions, we are the trier of last resort before Superior Court when there are disputes between landlords and tenants. The current commission has taken on a number of other issues. Council has agendized to further discuss our recommendation that our housing becomes smoke-free upon vacancy. We forwarded Council our recommendation for routine inspections for habitability, thank you, similar to what the City of Los Angeles does for all the rent-controlled units every 3 years. We had a nearly year-long discussion for the potential of some type of earthquake retrofit pass-through, with Council adopting net operating income, and we currently have a subcommittee studying the process how units are re-registered upon vacancy and issues for non-compliance. I'm going to switch to just my role as a resident of the city of West Hollywood. I want to talk a little bit about pawn shops. There are 5 that are allowed under current code to operate in West Hollywood. Currently, all 5 are on the east side. One directly across from Plummer Park on Martel and Santa Monica, one on Santa Monica just west of Fairfax, and up until recently, 3 were clustered around the intersection of Santa Monica and Genesee. Some of these shops are what you would normally think of as a pawn shop: old TVs, bikes, and other items in a cluttered shop, while one looks much like a beautiful jewelry store with only the loan sign as an indication that it's a pawn shop. Some are well run. Some have had issues that have brought them into contact with the sheriff's station before the Business License Commission. It has long been my hope that we could in some way address pawn shops, at the very least by limiting their physical proximity to each other, or perhaps as the city did with medical marijuana shops, by not allowing one to reopen in the place of existing store. We're at a good time, I think, to discuss this, as one, Next Attachments, has gone out of business, and the one on Martel may be also. I would ask that you consider how pawn shops could be better citizens in West Hollywood, and of course, I'd be happy to help with that discussion anyway. Thank you.
Thank you. George Biarski, followed by Gary Legault.
George Boyarski, resident WeHo. I'm sorry about the loud slap that I delivered at the last meeting that I attended about a month ago, the one where the commission approved the bulk building on Spalding. There were a number of reasons for it, but the major one was frustration. I always, almost always, go to the site and read the agenda for the meeting. This time I was caught in a crunch, and I had prepared for, a continuing of the waiver, whatever it's called. So I ran around the corner to the public notice, and it still said the same thing it had said before. And it was only about 2 hours before the meeting that I found out that the applicant was asking for a concession. This may sound like, sour grapes, but since the notice is a public notice, and I realized that staff explained why everything was okay, but since the notice is a public notice, and since, because it's a public notice, the date is stated, it wouldn't seem to require much to use a permanent marker just to cross out and put in what is actually going to be at the meeting. That meeting, for what I will hereafter refer to as the bulk building, the bulk building started from the acquisition of ground with the assumption and the plans for a setback, a smaller setback than would normally apply. It went through all the stages, always the same thing. Along the way, it got a concession, I think, for the 4th floor. And then just before it was to come to an approval, the developer held back and then negotiated the 5 units that had originally been stated for lower income to 4. So that's nice. And then by using the concession, they came back to 4.5. So it's a nice process.
Thank you. Gary Legault, and again, if I'm saying your name wrong, I apologize. Please correct me.
That's all right. It's Gary Legault.
Legault.
I am a homeowner on the street known as Betty Way, and I'm holding in my hand an ordinance that was passed in January of 1992, ordinance number 317. And I just want to read to you briefly from the ordinance. The city has determined that the neighborhood known as Betty Way should be redesignated R1C to restrict the area to one-story structures in order to preserve the character of the neighborhood. Now, it recently came to my attention that plans were approved for the remodeling of a house at 8827 Betty Way. That includes a basement that was dug without the permission or knowledge of city officials about 2 years ago, a basement that was flooding torrents of water down the street in the recent winter rains. These plans also include space to park an additional vehicle in the front yard of this lot, which is 40 by 50 feet. And the property owner came in on a Saturday during May without the knowledge or consent of city officials, with a crew bringing jackhammers, a huge cement truck, removed the sidewalk and the curb, and simply widened his driveway and started parking cars there. This redesign of the property is being passed off in the plans as a treatment to the front yard. Despite photographs that have been sent to code compliance demonstrating that the property owner has been using this space in his front yard to park cars. I want to know how these plans were passed. The last property owner who put a basement under his dwelling found it necessary to completely demolish the structure, excavate the lot, and drive pilings 30 feet into the ground in order to construct his basement. So I don't see how allowing a third vehicle to be parked in the front yard of a property on a street where there is a special ordinance protecting those homes from this kind of redevelopment, I don't see how this could have been passed. And I'm wondering if there was an abuse of process. Certainly there have been many complaints from the residents of Betty Way to code compliance. And I'm calling for a stay of all proceedings in the execution and approval of this permit pending an investigation.
Thank you. Are there any more public speakers, David?
No.
I just want to make sure that that's addressed. It sounds like this would have been a project that would have been approved by staff and that likely was not passed by commission, but I would need to confirm.
That is a project type that would have been looked at by staff, yes.
Okay. I don't know with whom you've been in touch from City Hall, but is there a way that we can put this gentleman in touch with someone from staff? Just, I want to make sure your concerns are addressed, but it doesn't sound like that was a project that was approved at the Planning Commission level, but I want to make sure that you're put in touch with someone. You can also come talk to me after the meeting. If you like, my card is up here, and we can put you in touch with someone from City Hall. Thank you. Item number 8, Director's Report.
Good evening, Chair and members of the Commission, and welcome, Commissioner Erickson. It'll be great working with you moving forward. So at the last meeting I was here, I think I got a little ahead of myself. I said we didn't have any items on the next council agenda. We actually do. Next agenda is November 5th, and we have 2 zone text amendments that went to the Planning Commission. The zone text amendment for special event permits and the zone text amendment on commercial off-street parking. So the City Council will be reviewing those. Also on that agenda are the Sunset Billboard Pilot Project. So that's the big digital billboard on Sunset. That will be going to City Council. Also, we have an informational item coming from the City Attorney's Office on Housing Accountability Act. And so that item will be brought to the City Planning Commission after the City Council meeting. It's November 19th, City Council, where we don't have any planning items on. So it's in two council meetings away. But that's all I have for tonight.
Great, thank you. Any questions for Mr. Kehoe? No, thank you, John. I should just keep this on perpetuity. Item 9 is items from commissioners. Commissioner Garner.
Excuse me. First of all, I'd like to welcome Commissioner Erickson. You dodged a bullet tonight, I think, at least temporarily, because that's a lot to walk into on your first day. So related to that, I'd like to state something for the record and also make a recommendation to staff. 3 weeks ago, I met with John Kehoe and staff to request a radius mapping information on 3 upcoming projects in my neighborhood. I wanted to be clear about which ones would be within the 500 feet of my property and which would require me to recuse myself. Included in that list was 8555 Santa Monica Boulevard. The city's mapping software showed clearly that while close, the map line was many feet away from my property, and staff said that while one other property was within the 500 feet, the other 2, including 8555, were not. On Monday afternoon, I received a phone call from the city attorney informing me that she had received a letter from the applicant stating that my property was between 4 and 5 feet inside the 500-foot radius, a shift in measurement of almost 10 feet that to date I still don't understand. After numerous emails and phone calls requesting clarification, and while I have significant questions regarding the applicant's measurements, under advice of counsel, I am recusing myself as of for now, given that this is continued, from this project out of an abundance of caution. The idea that an applicant, 3 days before a hearing, could submit their own measurements and challenge the city's mapping tool causes unnecessary confusion for all the parties and is an unnecessary distraction for all involved. I have grave concerns about the precedent being set by possibly allowing an applicant's consultant to drive the city's processes and measurement techniques. As a recommendation for best practices going forward, I would strongly recommend that city manager and council that a new practice be established where all planning commissioners' properties are surveyed upon appointment to clearly establish the 500-foot radius from their property and therefore identifying the excluded parcels from the beginning of their appointment. And by sharing that map with the commissioner and the public, it would be intuitively obvious which properties would be excluded in any future deliberations. This would provide transparency for all parties. By improving our processes, perhaps we could avoid these situations in the future. Furthermore, given that this project has been continued, I would hereby request of staff and council and city manager that my property be first. That's it.
Thank you, Commissioner Hooper and Garner. Commissioner Buckner.
Yes. Mr. Erickson, so happy to have you, Commissioner, as a new commissioner, and look forward to working with you. And as we said, you can just get comfortable tonight because it's going to come down. We've got a lot of very interesting projects coming before us. So we're here to work with you. Thank you.
Commissioner Bass.
I too would like to welcome Commissioner Erickson, and I would also like to thank staff, all of City Hall staff, and our Sheriff's Department for an exceptional job last night. I know that I come here from the Public Facilities Commission, where we had a little bit more involvement in the Halloween and Pride activities, but as a resident, I just want to, and I hope you can share with your colleagues, that I, for one, am very grateful for the fact that we have 500,000 people come visit us, and then the next morning it doesn't look like anyone was here. And I just really appreciate the Herculean effort, and thank you.
Well said. Commissioner Altschul.
I also would like to welcome John Erickson to our commission, and we're very excited to have you here. And again, thank David Agai for his wonderful years of service and his devotion to the job. Also, with respect to last night, at around 3:30 or 4 o'clock yesterday afternoon, I was watching the television station, news stations, talk about how there were going to be about 500,000 people here for Halloween last night, and showing the boulevard with practically nobody on it. Then several hundred thousand people arrived in the middle of the night, or that for me in the middle of the night, and stayed God knows how long. And when I left my house early this morning, it looked like nobody was here, as somebody else said. It's an amazing feat. It went through, as I understand it, without a hitch. And how it's done like that every year is fantastic. So I think the city deserves a wonderful pat on the back for itself. Also, in a less happy note, Jean Dobrin is in the hospital. She's been there since Sunday night. Kind of a few indeterminate issues that hopefully are getting resolved. And perhaps she's going to be transferred to a rehab facility tomorrow.
Thank you for that update, Commissioner Altschul. Commissioner Erickson, would you like to say anything?
Yes, thank you so much, Chair Jones. Welcome, Mr. and Mrs. Jones in the back. It's nice to meet you finally. I've heard great things about you from your daughter. I just want to thank my fellow commissioners, especially Lynn, who welcomed me so diligently and with open arms last week. And so I just want to send my also best wishes to you and the loss of Miles Standoffish Livingston. I'm sending you lots of love today. I also want to thank all my other commissioners who I've been in touch with while I had a fun onboarding process for a small item that was continued on our agenda tonight. I also would like to appreciate the fact that I, in the middle of an election season, read all those materials and had a lot of fun breaking into them. So I feel aptly prepared for when this item comes back to a date undetermined. Also, just wanted to say thank you to David Agai, who for his service. It was a pleasure knowing him personally, but professionally in this role. I want to thank Councilmember Lindsay Horvath, who I served as her appointee to the Lesbian and Gay Advisory Board, for appointing me roughly about a year ago. So I really want to thank her for that opportunity, and thank John Heilman, Councilmember Heilman, for appointing me to this very important commission. And then additionally, I do want to thank all the city staff who are both old colleagues. Many of you may be aware I worked at the City of West Hollywood for 6 years, serving as deputy to former Councilmember Abby Land, as well as many of the people in the room, both not in the room, from Larissa Fuchs to David. So it's nice to work with you in this capacity. Additionally, I want to thank the residents who came out. Rob, who's been a mentor and a friend, thank you very much for your very kind words. And then I want to say what I thought was going to be a very difficult decision was mirrored by the fact that I had to judge the youth carnival this weekend at Plummer Park. And if I thought the decision we were going to make tonight was going to be complicated and complex and full of ins and outs, you were not judging the same carnival I was. And to the 4-year-old who was entered into the adult category as Post Malone and came out second, congratulations to that local resident. And then additionally, in closing, I just want to say how excited I am to work with all of you and serving the city in this new capacity. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Commissioner Caballero.
Welcome, Commissioner Erickson. I look forward to working with you. It's been a pleasure to know you. I look forward to going through all these projects in the near future.
Thank you. I also would like to echo my fellow commissioners' sentiments about the addition of John Erickson to our commission. I have every expectation that you will be approaching this post with the concomitant vigor and enthusiasm that you employ in everything that you do, and you do a lot. So welcome. I also just wanted to, again, echo commissioner comments about last night. I dragged myself down to the boulevard last night with a friend. It had been a while, and it is pretty miraculous. I mean, it was, in my advancing age, standing room only is a little bit scary sometimes, but it is miraculous, and, you know, our sheriffs have a tough job to do, and sending them our best, and thankful that it looks like everybody was getting along and having a good time. Maybe that was just like the 100,000 people that I was around. But I also, again, just wanted to thank my mom and dad, William and Deborah Jones, for coming out tonight. They live in Indiana, my home state where I was born and raised, and they have set an amazing example for me in terms of their civic obligation and always trying to do the right thing and to be fair. So thanks, and I love you. And with that, I think we can move on to item 10, which is our consent calendar. There is none, and so given that, moving into item 11A, public hearings, zone text amendment for name changes for current organizational structure. And it looks like we will be receiving a presentation from Jerry Hiddleman. Hello.
Hello, good evening, Chair and Commissioners. I could do a long report to fill in the gap here, but I'll do a short one for you. Keep things moving along. The item before you tonight is a name change zone text amendment, and the reason this is before you is because there have been some organizational changes within the city. Plus, in reviewing the zoning ordinance, we found some lingering old language, so describing departments and so forth and commissions. So the name changes that are before you, the main one is Community Services Department was revised to Planning and Development Services. And then the Public Works Department, in some cases, was called the Transportation and Public Works Department, so that's been changed. And some commissions were changed, like the Fine Arts Commission was changed to the Arts and Cultural Affairs Commission. So went through the whole zoning ordinance, found these changes along with some other ones that you might have read in the staff report. And with that, I'll recommend approval. And I should tell you, what we're going to do with these is take the zoning ordinance amendments, merge them with a larger municipal code update and bring it to the council. But your purview is the zoning ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you. I think that might be a record for last meeting subdivision application request presentation, so thank you. Does anyone on commission have questions for Mr. Hiddleman or anyone else on staff about this item?
Of course I do.
Go
I
ahead.
want to make sure you drag this out until 10 o'clock. Oh, 11? Okay, let's go for 11.
I could read the whole ordinance if you'd like.
I mean, they've been gypped out of a real drama here tonight. Come on. I'm kidding.
No one?
No.
All right, well, let's call the question. Wait. There are no public speakers on this item, are there? Lest we
No,
get
we do
ahead of
have one.
ourselves. Oh, we do have one?
We do.
Okay, excellent. So we will not be calling the
George
question.
Biarski?
George Briarski, resident WeHo. I'm not quite sure why these changes are necessary. It seems that it's more comfortable for the public to recognize names that have been around for a long, long time. I don't think the costs of review of all the mentions of all the names are going to be too large, and probably if there's letterheads, the changes in letterhead are not going to be too large. But there is I just continue to have a question as a mop-up. Everything is defined, so there's no particular reason. I don't know how the zoning ordinance will be, fitted into, and so maybe that's too much. But I did notice one last thing, that almost as a mostly, the name community has vanished from all of the in any changes where it appears, and the word development has now come forth. So, somebody who talks about the community and certainly doesn't always agree with the city's idea of development, I find that as a certain loss. And I don't know whether the commission has any power to make a suggestion, but my suggestion would be that the progressive city be changed to the development city. Thank you.
Thank you. David, was Mr. Biarski our only public speaker on this item?
I'm sorry?
Mr. Biarski was the only public speaker on this item?
Yes.
Great, thank you. So I'm going to close the public comment portion of the hearing. I think I'm actually just going to close the public hearing. Do we have any debate on this item? Discussion?
I think I just want to be clear for Mr. Boyarski's perspective. It's my understanding that these changes have already been made in terms of the city's organization chart and all of the departments, et cetera, et cetera. This is just bringing the code language into compliance with our existing org chart. And your point is very well taken, sir, that, we are supposed to be about the community and not just development. And, but this is just a way to make sure that the words in the code match our organizational chart, people's titles, et cetera.
I might add, there is also, it wasn't necessary to reflect in the zoning ordinance changes, but there actually is an umbrella department that includes planning and development services and facilities and public works that is community services. So we are under the community services umbrella.
Great, thank you. Well, we have, looks like a motion on the floor by Commissioner Erickson, seconded by Commissioner Altschul, and I'm comfortable with calling the question if we have no further discussion on this item.
And the motion passes unanimously. There's no appeal process, since this will be going to City Council.
Great, thank you. Moving on to, again, item 11B was continued to a date uncertain, and that will be renoticed for anyone who wasn't present for the first part of the meeting. Moving on to item 12A, new business, Planning Commission Subcommittee appointments. It is my recommendation, I'd like to name Sue Buckner to Design Review Subcommittee, keeping Lynn Hoopengarner as a first alternate, and I will be replacing Lynn on long-range planning.
Noted.
Thank you. Do we need to move or vote on that at all?
No.
No.
Great, thank you.
Are you replacing Lynn on long-range planning? or
sorry.
me?
To be clear, sorry if I misspoke. David Agai is no longer on the commission, and he was also on Design Review Subcommittee. I am appointing Sue Buckner in his place. Lynn will remain as first alternate on Design Review Subcommittee, and she will have, I believe, opportunity to sub in as needed when people are not present. Now that Sue will not be on long-range planning anymore, I will be replacing Sue on long-range planning. Thank you for the clarification, for asking me to clarify. That was my bad.
Thank you, and I accept. Thank you very much. Look forward to doing it again.
Thank you. This has been a really short meeting, everybody. I'm sorry, Mom and Dad. You were really in for a good one tonight. Item 13A, or 13, unfinished business, there is none. Item 14 is excluded consent calendar, there is none. Item 15A, items from staff, planning manager's update.
Not tonight, thank you.
Thank you, Bianca. Item 16, public comment. Do we have any speakers, David?
No.
All right. Item 17, items from commissioners. I feel a little bit of deja vu that we just did this. Anything else from anyone?
No.
No. Lynn, I would like to extend my condolences about the loss of your pet.
Thank you very much. He was 18 and lived a rich life and will be missed.
He was lucky to have you as his cat mom. And with no further items from commissioners, I will adjourn this meeting. We will adjourn to a regularly scheduled meeting on Thursday, November 15th, right here in council chambers at 6:30 p.m. We look forward to seeing you here.
Thank you.